It's episode 632 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. On today's show, we're talking about Corey Seager winning American League Player of the Week, and the Rangers nearly blowing the wackiest game they've played in all season. They've played in some wacky ones. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, founder and host for all 4 seasons of this podcast. It is Tuesday, July 12th. Your Rangers are 40-44, alone in third in the American League West. 15.5 games behind the Astros in the division, only 3.5 behind the Jays and the Mariners for that third wild card spot. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers, and the best way you can help grow the show is subscribe on YouTube. We are 21 subscribers away from our goal of 1,000 by the All-Star break. I think we can get there. We've been picking up some steam over the last couple days. Really appreciate all of y'all who have subbed recently. Appreciate y'all day ones. Appreciate y'all in the middle. Everyone in between, Really appreciate every single one of y'all. But today we are talking about Corey freaking Seager. This guy has been electric. I was so incredibly happy when the Rangers were able to get him. And I remember talking with a bunch of different Rangers media folks, including Kennedy Landry of MLB.com. And I remember her very specifically saying, yeah, this guy is the Rangers' number one choice. This was back in December. Well, I guess it would have been November, because it was before they got Corey Seager, but they knew this was their guy. Of the many guys they could have gotten, I mean, you look around and there's been a lot of disappointment from some of those big free agent signings. I mean, Carlos Correa is doing a little bit better than him OPS-wise right now, but home run-wise, Corey Seager is the best home run hitter among shortstops in all of Major League Baseball. He is the first one to get to 20 home runs. He has 4 home runs in the last 4 games, a home run in each of them, the longest streak of his career. The longest streak of any Ranger is 20 home runs before the All-Star break, is the most since any shortstop among Rangers players since 2003 Allard, which that's really freaking saying something. I think that was the year that he won the MVP, one of his... Actually, no, he only did win one MVP, but he had multiple different 50 home run seasons for the Rangers. And if he gets 3 more by the All-Star break, which is entirely possible, then he will have the Rangers franchise record, very specific record of most home runs by a shortstop before the All-Star break. I don't know that he's going to break the franchise record for home runs, which I believe is that 56 that A-Rod hit in either 2002 or 2003. He might. If he keeps up this pace, he's going to hit like 87 home runs. But he's been incredible. He won the American League Player of the Week for the one League Player of the Week. The first time he ever won American League Player of the Week, he did win National League Player of the Week back in 2019 with the Dodgers. But he was incredible this week. He hit 500, 11 for 22, had an OPS of 1601. Absolutely ridiculous. Had 4 home runs in the week. Tallied multiple hits in 5 of his 6 games in that week. He only struck out once in that time, and that was his only strikeout in his last 36 at-bats, and that streak goes back all the way to June 29th. He has been just absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, we've talked about his expected numbers not being quite what his actual numbers are, but you look at his expected numbers, they're so freaking good. He's barreling the ball up in the top quarter of all of baseball. He's not striking out in the top 19% of not striking outedness, however you're actually supposed to phrase that. Walk percentage in the 58th percentile. I mean, he's a little slow. I don't think he's running necessarily 100% every time, which, a lot of people will give people crap for it. But Nelson Cruz is a guy who ran 100% way too often and had recurring injuries. And Corey Seager's a guy who's been hurt a whole lot. So if him running like 5%, 10% less than max speed all the time is going to save him, because he has been very healthy. He hasn't missed any time with the Rangers so far, and he has missed quite a bit of time. The most games that he's played in a single season is 157. That was back in his rookie year in 2016. He's missed at least 17 games in every single season. The most he's played since then was 145. That was his next year. And he's only played 100 games in a season once since 2017. Now, we did have the 2020 season where there were only 60 games in the season. He played 52 in that year, but he only played 134 in 2019, only played 26 in 2019. We know that he has had some injury issues. They've been kind of random one-off things, not as concerning as Mitch Garver's were, but again, the injuries were there. But the home run power to this degree had not shown up like this, except for it when he finished top 10 in MVP voting back in the 2020 season. 52 games there, he had 15 home runs. That's a little bit faster, a little bit higher of a pace. I don't know if he would have sustained that over a full 162. There were only 60 games in that season. He obviously hit a whole lot the rest of that year when he was in the playoffs, the expanded playoffs, and a lot of those playoffs that were in Globe Life Field. Started hitting a whole bunch of home runs at Globe Life Field. He talked about how much he liked hitting here, and, it has shown. He has really, really liked hitting here. And he has liked hitting bombs so far with the Rangers. But you look at more of his expected numbers, expected WOBA, batting average, and slugging percentage. All of those in the top 6% of baseball. Batting average is in the top 6%. WOBA, top 5%. Slugging, top 4%. He's hitting the ball hard. His max exit velos in the top 22%. Average exit velo, hard hit percentage, both those in the top 20% of baseball. This guy has been fantastic. His defense has jumped way back up. It kind of oscillates a whole lot, this out above average slider on Baseball Savant, a little bit more than I thought it would, because I feel like just 2 weeks ago when I looked at it, he was, all the way down in like the 30th percentile. Now he's back up to the 77th percentile. I don't know. His eye test has been pretty decent. He's got a few more errors than I think he should be charged for. I think Nathaniel Lowe should have quite a few more. A better defensive first base. I'm going to save more of his throws that were on some difficult plays. But again, he's made the routine ones, and he has been hitting the absolute crap out of the baseball. This is the guy the Rangers paid all that money for. This is the guy the Rangers believed that they could get. And this is why the Rangers need to be contending quickly, because he's not going to do this. He's probably not going to play like this in his age 38 season. I don't want to say it's impossible, but he's probably not going to be playing pretty decent shortstop defense while also putting up these crazy home run tallies. I don't think that he's going to do that when he's 38. He could. It's entirely possible. Not necessarily likely. So same thing with Marcus Simeon. Marcus Simeon has really turned it on basically since the month of June. Since he got that first home run, I said time and time again, once he gets his first one, everything is going to look like gravy, and he has been fantastic since then. So these two guys in the middle of that Rangers lineup, they have shown how good it can be. Like I talked about extensively on yesterday's episode, if you can add another big bat in there, like Joey Gallo, go get him. Go freaking get him right now. Don't wait. Don't let the Padres get him and let him see how nice San Diego is and see all of his friends there, because he will probably re-sign there. Just a gut feeling. I have no sources on this. Just a gut feeling. If you let him go to the guy who scouted him out of the draft, in AJ Preller, and he gets to go see his old friends in Mazzara and Alfaro and Jurickson Profar, by the way, who was in a collision and was carted off the field earlier this weekend. Hope that he is okay. Sending thoughts of prayer for him. I think he will be, but he is going to be out for a little while. But still, that's all his old friends. He doesn't have nearly as many friends on the Rangers. He still knows, most of the guys because he was here literally just last year. But it's still wild how much this team has turned over from the All-Star break of last year when he was traded, or I guess July, whenever the heck it was. But anyway, coming up, I'm going to get into the wackiest game the Rangers have played, the implications of Mitch Garver's surgeries, and another Rangers player going on the IL. But first, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. For the people who have invented healthy and tasty comes the greatest gift for your taste buds. You probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built Bar has given the coconut brownie chunk the Puffs treatment. That's right, coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, the flavor that you love, deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. Stop drooling and listen. These are good for you. They're low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and it's all delicious. All Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently, provides a ton of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and it's good for you. They're delicious coconut, rich brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Get to Built.com and order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built puffs right now. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your order. Promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Now, Dane Dunning had the worst start of his season on Sunday, and I thought there was going to be a little bit of an issue why he didn't go further than he did. It turns out he had an ankle injury. A right ankle impingement. I still don't know how to say that stupid word, and it comes up all the time in baseball injuries. He has been placed on the 15-day IL, but according to Emily Jones, he could miss up to 3 weeks. It's entirely possible that he could miss, be on there for 21 days as opposed to 15 days. The Rangers made some roster moves to compensate for that. They also put Mitch Garver on the 60-day IL. He had his surgery today. From what I heard, all things went well. I haven't seen anything about things going poorly, so I'm assuming it all went hunky-dory, and he is going to be back in around that 6 to 8 month timetable, for which is like the average recovery for that surgery. But the Rangers brought up 2 players, Sam Huff and Colby Allard. Now, Mabrys Valoria is still on the roster, so this kind of makes me think that Sam Huff is going to get a lot of DH/first base opportunities. And he has been hitting the ball very, very well, has 3 home runs in the last week. Actually, it might have a little bit more than that last I checked. When they announced the surgery, which was, I believe, on Saturday, at that point he had 3 home runs in his last 4 games. He has been hitting the ball harder and over the fence, which was the main problem when he was here at the big league level. He didn't look overmatched, which was great, but he was hitting a whole lot of singles, and, that's fine. That's fine if you're, Josh Smith, if you're, Leody Taveras, but if you're Sam Huff, you're a big 6'4", 240-plus pound catcher. You got that 80 grade raw power. You need to be hitting balls over the fence. It's all right if you're striking out a whole bunch. That's fine. I did like that he was walking a little bit more, having better at bats, and I don't want him to necessarily compromise that, but I would very much like to see him tap into that power a little bit more, because that is what makes him so valuable as a catcher. He's pretty fine defensively. He's got a big arm. That's nice. It's probably bigger than what Jonah Heim has been doing with those pop times. I haven't seen him that much catching-wise because he didn't catch all that much in Frisco while he was there. And while he was, I wasn't able to see him as much, but I know that he does have a pretty big arm. But he's got that big bat. That is what he is here for. That is the whole point of him. And Colby Allard was called up. And, it was not a great outing for him. Later on, I'm going to talk about his outing a little bit more about him, but there is some other good news that I wanted to get to. The Rangers have a second player in the All-Star Futures game in Los Angeles. Dustin Harris has been named a injury replacement for Boston's Brayan Bello. I don't know how to Brayan. Do with that what you will, but congratulations to Dustin Harris. It is a well-deserved nomination. I'm a little surprised that it wasn't Ezekiel Duran that was nominated. I don't know what the rules are necessarily for the Futures game. I think the rule is that if you have been to the big leagues, then you cannot be in the Futures game, which Ezekiel Duran has been to the big leagues, so he's not in the Futures game. If he wasn't called up, I would assume that he would have gotten a nomination all on his own, and same with Jack Leiter. Maybe they wouldn't have made Jack Leiter in there. I don't know what exactly the selection rules are. But anyway, there was a well-deserved nomination for Dustin Harris, a guy who is 22 years old, 2.3 years younger than the average player in AA Frisco, was absolutely fantastic in Hickory and Down East last year. Hickory was at High A is where he did his most damage. As a 21-year-old in High A, he had played in 37 games, had 10 home runs, an OPS of 1073. This year, he hasn't put up quite those numbers. He's been playing a whole lot of left field, exclusively left field and DH for him. It's been an experience for him in left field. It has been an adventure. Not necessarily a great one. He's had some pretty good plays. He's got a pretty decent arm. He played a lot of third base early in his career. I do think long-term he's a first base / DH type. I have not seen him at all at first base because he has not played first base barely at all for Frisco. Let's see. I was wrong. He did play literally 1 game at first base. He did play all 9 innings there. But again, almost all of his time has been at left field. 49 games at left field, 19 at DH, and 1 at first base this year. But offensively, he's got 14 home runs. He's got 10 doubles, 2 triples, hitting .260 on base of .351. That is the number that we love to see. A slugging percentage of .468. That's an OPS of .819 for those of you who are better at math than I am in 69 games so far this year. It's been a very, very nice season for him. An absolute steal. You remember where the Rangers got him? Do you remember? I do. It was in the Mike Minor trade. Yeah. The worst of the 3 starting pitchers that the Rangers have traded away that have been all-star or all-star caliber, finished in the top 10 of Cy Young voting. The guy who was at the absolute bottom of his value, I think they got half a season for him. The Rangers got their best haul back for him. Now, that might end up being not true depending on what Spencer Howard turns out to be, but still, it's pretty impressive that they were able to steal Dustin Harris right out of the nose of a division rival for half a season of a mediocre left-handed pitcher in Mike Minor, what he was at the time. Now, granted, his success with the Rangers was totally real and totally would sustain if he went somewhere else. But I'm glad that he was very mediocre for the A's and that they were able to give up Dustin Harris. Congratulations, Dustin Harris. Coming up, we're going to look at a wild and wacky game, the first home run of Josh Smith's career, which was an absolutely bonkers one, and a game the Rangers nearly blew that would have been absolutely inexcusable. But first, this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why would you endure all these questions while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You've got a computer at home and in your pocket with access to rockauto.com. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why would you spend up to 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts at a chain store or a car dealership? They're a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and Rock Auto's prices are reliably low for every single customer. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on in their How'd You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. Now, let's get into the wackiest, wildest game of the Rangers season. I know it's between this one and one of the ones in Chicago, but I'd say this one is weirder just because of the nature, the back and forth, the wild way that all the runs scored. This tweet by Levi Weaver kind of summed it up very perfectly. By the way, the Rangers won 10-8, in case you didn't know that, in case you missed that. This is Levi's tweet. To recap, first run, balk. Second run, wild pitch. There was a sac fly to an infielder. Josh Smith's first career home run was an inside-the-park job. The A's scored 6 in the 8th after 3 Texas starters were removed, and Texas wins 10-8. Bonkers. I agree, Levi. It was absolutely bonkers game for the Rangers. Now, those first 2 runs, they scored in the second inning, both those in the very same at-bat. Josh Smith was batting, and Jonah Heim was on third, and Leody advanced to third on a balk. He had runners at second and third. Leody had just stolen second base, and that scores the first run. Then, a wild pitch by Adrian Martinez, and Leody Taveras scores. And then I believe Josh Smith, I want to say that he just got out. What was it? Lined out to second baseman Sheldon Noisy. Yeah, so didn't matter. It didn't matter that he didn't get a hit. The Rangers got a 2-0 lead. Then here comes a threat by the A's. Get 1 run in the 4th inning. A single by Seth Brown scored Ramon Laureano, who was on a very difficult error that was charged to the third baseman Josh Smith. I feel like that was a bit harsh, but it hit his glove and it popped way up in the air. There was really nothing he could do about it, especially with the speed of Laureano. That was an unearned run, the first of 2 runs that were given up by the starter Spencer Howard, who, by the way, was absolutely fantastic. 5 innings for him, the first time that he has gone 5 innings for the Rangers at the big league level. Allowed 2 runs. One of those was earned, came off of a solo shot by Sheldon Noisy, his 3rd of the season. The Rangers gave up a few home runs in this one, including 2 3-run shots, one by Ramon Laureano and one by Chad Pender. Both those were given up by Colby Allard. This was this was just straight up awful game from Colby Allard. He was called right back up. He now has a 7.71 ERA. His ERA was right around 5 when he came into this game. He allowed 4 hits, 5 runs. Excuse me, the second one was not a 3-run shot. I believe it was a 2-run shot. But he did give up those 2 home runs and only got 1 out. Then in comes Garrett Richards. Comes in and gets 1 out and allows a run himself. Then Dennis Santana comes in. You have to use 3 relievers in 1 inning. The Rangers gave up 6 runs in that 8th inning. It was very terrifying. And then in comes Brett Martin for his 3rd save. He allows a hit. He allows a walk. You have 2 runners on base. The tying runs are on base in that 9th inning, but he was able to get out of it. Not allow any of those guys to score was nails once he got those runners on base, and that was big for him. Now, some of the other wild and wacky plays, there was also a sac fly to an infielder. That infielder was, of course, Elvis Andrews going out and getting a very deep fly ball, or foul ball, I should say. Actually, maybe it wasn't even foul. It was very close to the line, kind of fell over. There were 2 guys that were both there. I believe it was him and the third baseman, Machine. I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong. But anyway, both those guys kind of were all over each other deep in that kind of like third base, left field, foul territory corner where it's not quite deep left field, but it's still kind of the third baseman's area. But anyway, that allowed the run to score. I believe that was Leody Taveras, who, by the way, Leody Taveras was fantastic in this one. There's a lot of things to get to in this one, but Leody Taveras had a major league career high 3 hits and 3 RBIs, and this one had a pair of doubles, scored a pair of runs, and offensively, in his small sample size, his numbers have been fantastic. He's hitting .317 with an .809 OPS at this point. That is exactly what you want from your defense first center fielder. If he's getting on base at that rate, by the way, his walk rate, not super great this year. Not super great, only 2 walks to 18 strikeouts for him on the season. But you know what? That'll improve. He is a patient hitter, but he's hitting the ball harder, and that is no joke. That is one of the things that I wanted to see from him the last couple of years. Well, I mean, last year, at the time of the big league, I just wanted to make contact, just have some kind of success, some kind of thing go right, because last year was so awful for him at the big league level. He did have a great season in AAA, had those, I believe, 20 home runs last year, and was hitting home runs in bunches this year at the minor league level. We could tell that he was hitting the ball harder, selling out a little bit for more power, not being quite as patient. And you know what? That's okay when you are an extremely patient hitter. I kind of might prefer that for a guy if he would like just hit, 300, have an on base of 350, and slug under 400. I would be okay with that with a guy with his defense and speed, because he is so good on the bases and so good defensively in the outfield. Just really loved what I've seen from him, showing that this is his time. He is ready. This is the 3rd time that he has been called up in 2020. He did all right. He did pretty well. Showed off how great he could be defensively. Right now, he is a .4 win player. Somehow, his defensive WAR is 0.0. I don't know how in the heck that's possible. Something they're doing with their math is wrong, because this guy is a darn good defensive outfielder. But a .4 WAR in 24 games for a guy who is a defense first outfielder who has a 0 defensive WAR is pretty darn solid. Love what I've seen from him, and his at bats are no joke. They're no joke. He's got an OPS over 800 at this point, and he does not look overmatched there at the plate. His OPS is 810 at this point. On base at 333, slugging 476. He's got 4 doubles at this point and 2 home runs, 2 stolen bases, 1 caught stealing. This guy has been ready. The Rangers waited until they knew that he was ready to call him back up. They didn't call him up at the very first of the season when he was absolutely crushing it for that entire month of April. They didn't call him up the very second that they had any kind of need. They didn't call him up when Brad Miller went down. They waited until they knew that he was ready, and props to the Rangers for knowing when he was ready. It's a difficult thing to tell. A lot of times every time that the player will be like, I'm ready now. I was ready last year. Things didn't go well, but I'm ready. And the Rangers said, no, we're going to send you AAA. We're going to wait for you to cool off and then get out of that cold streak. And he broke out of his cold streak, and the Rangers were like, all right. They knew this was the time, and he's proven them right. and that has been huge. But Josh Smith got his first home run. It was an inside the Parker. This was a great question by the Rangers recliner Nerd on Twitter, who asked the first question to Josh Smith after the game about his first career home run, which went, I believe, 271 feet, hit right in front of the center fielder and bounced past him all the way to the wall. It scored Leody Taveras and I believe one other player, but he was absolutely motoring. He thought it was caught at first. He said he pulled up for about half a second and kept going. But anyway, that question by Recliner Nerd was, did you know it was gone off the bat? 271 feet. No, he did not know that it was gone off the bat. He becomes the first Ranger to hit their first career home run as an inside the Parker since, I'll let you take a guess. It's Craig Gentry in 2011. Of course it's Craig Gentry. Gosh, I miss old Kitten Face. But this was a big moment for him. Boosted his OPS for the season up to 692. That's not why he's here. He's here for his competitive at-bats. The power will come. Power's not coming at this point, but overall, we know that he has got some pop in there in his bat. He has shown it at the minor league level. I don't think he's necessarily going to be on Corey Seager's pace of hitting 20 home runs before the All-Star break, but he's been a valuable player. He is there for his on-base. Right now his on-base is at 375. He puts together some quality at-bats. He is 24 years old. He can play shortstop. He can play second. He did play second later on in this one when the Rangers took out some of their starters, including their second baseman, Marcus Simeon. In this one, they took out 3 different starters. They took out Simeon, Duggar pinch hit for him, and then did the old swapperoo. They moved Brad Miller to left field. They moved, Sam Huff came in and played first base. Honestly, did not even notice that because the rest of this game was so wild that Sam Huff came in and replaced Daniel Lowe, who had a multi-hit game, got on base 3 times, had his, 12th double of the season, continues to be very, very impressive offensively. Maybe Valoria came in and pinch hit for Jonah Heim to give him a little bit of a break in this one. For a game that seemed like it was going to fly by, Spencer Howard got out of the first inning with just 5 pitches. It really took a lot longer than it needed to, 3 hours and 28 minutes in this one. But shout out to Dennis Santana for coming in that 8th inning and settling things down. That was a rough spot to come into, a rough inning. It felt like the A's were really going to do something and had absolutely no reason to do so. The Rangers were up 10-2 going into that 8th inning. They had just taken a 10-2 lead, and they gave up a 6th spot in this one. This was an absolutely wild one. Other guys who stood out in this one, Jonah Heim got a hit and scored a pair of runs. Cole Calhoun got a hit, scored a run, drove in a run. I don't know. Just absolutely bonkers from start to finish. By the way, Josh Smith nearly turned a triple play in this one. Nearly turned a triple play. It would have been the first triple play the Rangers have done all season. Got it about as well as you could. It was after that error had been charged to him. Got a ball hit right at him at third base. Immediately steps on the bag for 1, turns it to second for 2, and just misses the guy at first base for the first triple play of the Rangers season. I don't think they had one last year either. I don't remember one in 2020. It feels like it's been a hot minute since the Rangers have had a triple play at all. That would have been a fantastic day for him, turning a triple play, or at least starting it, and then getting his first home run being an inside the Parker. That guy has got some absolute wheels and was on his horse. He beat the throw from center field pretty easily. It wasn't an online throw. Even though it was late, it's kind of airmailed. It wasn't just one throw. It was definitely a relay throw because the ball got all the way to the wall. But this was a bonkers game. The Rangers offense continues to just mash. 10 runs in this one. They show how deep they are. Literally from 1 to 9. The 9-hole hitter, Leody Taveras, had the 3-hit, 3 RBI day and was a big catalyst in this one. Josh Smith, a guy who hasn't done a whole lot of damage offensively, gets his first home run, a 3-run shot. Like I said, the inside the Parker. Simeon doesn't do a whole lot, and Seager gets his 20th home run of the season. A no-doubter off the bat to center field. Continues to be amazing. I don't know what the Rangers are going to do with replacing that spot in the rotation for the next 3 weeks with Dane Dunning out for a little while. I think they're just going to kind of go with a bullpen game, which has been what they've done, because I don't know if they thought Colby Allard was going to start, because it kind of seemed like that might be the thought with him coming up the second that Dane Dunning went down. But this was just such a rough outing by Colby Allard, and it feels like he's been up here for forever. The Rangers just traded for him in 2019. The guy made his major league debut at age 20 for Atlanta in 3 games and 1 start back in 2018, the year before the Rangers got him. By the way, in case you forgot, the Rangers got him in the trade for Chris Martin. Seemed like a solid return at the time. Now, I would have liked to have gotten one of the many, many other Braves pitching prospects that all turned out to be pretty decent, but he just hasn't done a whole lot in his time with Texas. It doesn't feel like he's improved a whole lot. I mean, he had some really solid outings for the Rangers beforehand, and this one he hadn't pitched a whole lot of games, but he had some big moments against the White Sox. He came in and got the save in that absolutely wacky game on June 12th. On the 15th, he came in and pitched against Houston in a game that had gotten out of hand, and he got the Rangers through 5 innings. He did allow 3 runs in that one and a pair of home runs, but that was the job. It was mop-up duty. He went 5 innings. That was everything the Rangers needed him to do. And, outside of one other blow-up outing, which was an inning and a third against the Angels where he gave up 5 runs, I can't remember if that was in mop-up duty or not. But for the most part, he's given up 0 or 1 runs in all but 3 of his however many outings he's done this year. 8 outings. So, again, I just don't know what to make of him. I feel like this is kind of just who he is, but every time you think he's turned a corner, boom, another big, huge blow-up outing. I feel like after the first 3-run bomb, they probably should have taken him out, but it didn't feel like this game was in jeopardy. It was still a 5-run game. Then he gives up a 2-run bomb, and it gets a little bit closer, a little bit more nail-bitey. And even Garrett Richards, the other mop-up guy who has shown promise at times and also has shown big blow-up games, which usually just coming up at mop-up duty, so it doesn't really matter. But they're bringing him in a winning effort in this one. And, I don't know. Maybe they could have let Spencer Howard go just a little bit longer. I do want to give a shout-out to Jose Leclerc, who pitched 2 perfect innings in this one. Another great outing from him. Not exactly the highest stakes when he was pitching, but still an impressive outing. His ERA is down to 4.50 as opposed to when he first came in the first couple of starts, it was like 13 or something. But he continues to improve, and I can't wait for the Rangers to start using him in higher leverage situations. I don't think that is too far out of the realm of possibility or too far on the horizon because he is looking much, much better and much more like his old self. That's going to do it for today's episode. On tomorrow's show, I'm going to be talking with Lindsey Crosby, host of Locked On MLB Prospects. So go make his show your second listen of the day. I don't know what he's doing for today's episode, but go check it out. He's got some great stuff. We will be talking all about the Major League Baseball 2022 draft, which is happening on Sunday. I know I waited just a little while to actually get on that. Don't know how much I'm going to be able to participate. I'm sure there's going to be a live draft show this year. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I will be on vacation this weekend. I'll try and pop in and do what I can to keep y'all informed about the Rangers picks. But that's going to do it for today's episode. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.